Have you ever wished you had a map for your life? Some way to see where all your little daily choices are actually taking you? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, a really fascinating framework called the Quadrants of Life.
I know, it sounds a little out there, right? How can something as complex and, let's be honest, messy as a human life get plotted on a simple graph? But hang with me here, because the idea isn't about judging your past. It's all about understanding where you are right now so you can consciously decide where you're headed next.
And that's really the heart of it. The whole point of this system is to take something abstract, like the consequences of our decisions, and make it visible, something we can actually look at. It's a tool to help you see the direction you're trending in, at this very moment.
Okay, Section 1, a map for your life. So first things first, we have to be clear about what this map is for. This is not about looking backward and charting where you've been. Nope, it's all about understanding where you are standing right now, and from that exact spot, where you're pointed.
This is pretty much the foundational rule of the whole framework. You can't change what's already happened, and the future, well, who knows? The only point where you have any real power to make a change is right now, this very second. The present is your point of action.
Section 2, the four-quadrant compass. All right, so how does this thing actually work? Let's build this map from the ground up, starting right at the very center.
Every map needs a "You Are Here" sticker, and on this one, it's called the point of origin. Think of it like ground zero. It's the neutral starting block for all of us, the point from which every single life path begins to branch out, all based on the choices we make.
So let's draw the lines. First, you've got the horizontal x-axis. This represents your alignment with a higher purpose or a set of guiding principles. If you move to the right, that's positive. You're in sync. Move to the left, it's negative. You're out of sync, maybe even rebelling. Then you have the vertical y-axis. This is all about your internal state. Moving up is positive. That's growth, health, good things. Moving down is negative. Stagnation, fear, decay. And where these two lines cross, boom, they create four very distinct quadrants.
And this little chart here is basically our cheat sheet. Quadrant 1, top right, is positive positive. Quadrant 2 is negative positive. 3 is negative negative. And 4 is positive negative. This coordinate system is the absolute key to understanding the vibe of each path you could be on.
Section 3, Quadrant 1. Okay, so let's start with what this framework holds up as the ultimate goal. Quadrant 1. This is that top right section of our map, the double positive zone.
The path here is described as onward and upward. This is meant to represent a life that not only feels aligned with a deeper purpose, but is also seeing real, genuine personal growth. It's like you're not just knowing the right thing to do, you're doing it in a way that creates health and success for you and for others. It's that positive alignment in both directions.
So what does a life in Quadrant 1 actually look like? Well, the framework says it produces one fruit with 9 results. And these are those results you see right here: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, all the way to self-control. These are seen as the natural, tangible outcomes of living on this specific path.
Section 4, 3 contrasting paths. Okay, so if Quadrant 1 is the goal, what's going on in the other 3 quadrants? Well, the framework paints them as very distinct, contrasting paths that lead to very different places.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. The framework sets up quadrants 2 and 4 as total opposites. In Quadrant 2, you're negative on the principles axis, but positive on the personal state axis. Think of this as the successful rebel, someone who's rejecting the rules and doing their own thing, and maybe even succeeding in a worldly sense, but they're not in sync with that deeper purpose. Then, on the flip side, you've got Quadrant 4. Here, you're positive on the principles, but negative on your internal state. This is someone following all the rules, but they're doing it out of fear or duty. There's no real joy or growth, just rigid, anxious rule following.
And then there's Quadrant 3, the negative space. This is where you're both out of alignment with any kind of positive principle, and you're in a state of internal decay. And I have to tell you, the framework uses its absolute strongest language to describe this path. It describes people on this trajectory as, and this is a direct quote, evil predators that hate the truth, who are actively trying to destroy and kill.
This table sums it all up really well. You've got Quadrant 2, the rebel, whose actions get distorted. You have Quadrant 4, where fear creates this rigid, joyless life. And then Quadrant 3, where that nasty combo of being misaligned and internally fearful just breeds this really destructive worldview. And according to this framework, all 3 of these paths, in their own unique ways, are considered unfruitful.
Section 5. Choosing your trajectory. So after laying out this whole map, all 4 paths, the outcomes, the coordinates, the framework brings it all back to one single powerful idea: personal choice. You are not just a passive passenger here.
So the big question is, how does anyone end up in one quadrant instead of another? It's not by accident. The framework lays out a really clear 4-step process that decides our position on this map at any given time.
And here it is. It all starts with a desire. That's the motive, the root of it all. That desire sparks a thought. That thought leads to an action, and that action produces a consequence, which is literally your plot point on this graph. So if you want to change your direction, you have to go all the way back to the beginning, to the motive.
And that right there is the big takeaway. This whole framework isn't meant to be a tool for judgment. It's an empowerment tool. It's designed to make that invisible chain of choice and consequence totally visible, so you can consciously and deliberately choose which way you want to go.
So, as we wrap this up, the final question really isn't where are you on the map, but more like where do you choose to go from here? This model gives you a map and a compass, but the next step and the direction you take, well, that's entirely up to you.